The battle against terror involves more than commando raids and cruise missiles. The 21st century is spawning a new form of financial warfare. It may be changing the behavior of countries like Iran and North Korea and inflicting lasting damage on terror groups. CBS News national security analyst Juan Zarate is one of the architects of that strategy, and he's the author of a new book. It is called Treasury's War. Also joining us, our senior correspondent, John Miller, former FBI Assistant Director. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning, Charlie.
What's financial warfare?
It's the use of financial power and influence to attack our enemies and to ensure that America's national security interests are met, Charlie. And post 9/11, this became an integral part of how we did business.
And how do you do it?
You do it by enlisting the private sector. You isolate the ability of our enemies to access banks, their ability to engage in commercial activity. And in a globalized system, it's really not just about freezing their assets or following the money, but also not giving them access to a globalized system. Any group that wants reach, that wants to imagine the ability to go after the United States has to have access to money, has to have global reach using the financial system.
And money is very important, but this is the thing that people should know about you, Juan Zarate. I have to say, it's not a beach read. I did read a couple pages over and over and over again, but it was very eye-opening and very revelatory because you were in the room. After 9/11, you were in the room when all this planning started. And you guys were told to do what?
The Treasury Department was told to use all its power, influence tools to go after al-Qaeda and terrorist groups' financial infrastructure. Disrupt, dismantle this group so they can't attack again, but also so they can't attack in the future. That spawned a whole new set of tools and paradigms as to how to go after our enemies. And it wasn't just how we used it against al-Qaeda. It became how we used it against Iran, North Korea, organized crime groups, drug cartels. It's now an integral part of how the national security of the United States is thought about.
And having covered the White House, you hear the administration talk about this a lot, specifically with Iran and terrorist groups, North Korea and al-Qaeda. What about like what's in the headlines today? Al-Shabaab, this kind of group out of Somalia. Do they put money in banks? Can we use this to thwart them?
They actually use a lot of money. They raise millions of dollars using various schemes. They tax. They use their control of the port Kismayo, which the Kenyans took over. They have trade-based money laundering system, exporting charcoal, importing sugar. They raise millions of dollars.
Can we block that? Or
you can do that. The interesting thing, Nora, is even within formal groups or local groups, they have to access the financial system. If they have real money, they have to access the banks. They have to access non-bank financial institutions. So you can use these techniques. It's harder, though. And with countries like Iran, it's much easier. And this is why, Nora, you've heard from President Rouhani, the first thing he wants is relief from sanctions. But the thing he wants first is to plug back into the banking system, because that's what's hurt the Iranians most.
Yes, that's that 311 rule I was reading about.
That's exactly right.
Look at some of what's going on right now, though, on that count. You know, right here, around the corner on Fifth Avenue, there's a big giant skyscraper which sits on the most expensive real estate on the planet, you know, Fifth Avenue in the 50s. And this was owned by the Alafi Foundation, was seized a few weeks ago by the federal government because they traced the money to Iran.
That's right.
So can the enemies use it against us now, John? Financial warfare, can they use it against us?
You know, they use it, but in a different way. I mean, if you look at places like China and a number of other countries, they're, instead of using the moral high ground in the international financial community, they're doing the opposite. They're taking their cyber capability and actually stealing trade secrets from U.S. and Western corporations to boost their own economy.
All right.
General Alexander calls it the biggest transfer of private wealth in a long, long time.
That's exactly right.
Juan Zarate. You can always remember how to pronounce Juan's name. It rhymes with karate. Juan Zarate.
Thank you, Nora.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
right? I think you told me that.
That's right.
Treasury's War is on sale now.